Hi there. Here in Europe, I've noticed a lack of true understanding of the business model and the background of Temu, the Chinese web shop. Now, very few people here in Europe have looked at what Temu already did in the United States because we could learn a lot from what they've already tried there. And especially nowadays with the tax exemptions that have been cancelled in the US, the de minimis, we can see how agile Temu is and constantly adapts. And at TechBus China, I've been reporting on this. But there's actually something that we need to do on top of that. And that is we need to look at the parent company of Temu, that's Pinduoduo in China. And because a lot of the things that this company does with Temu, they already tried in China. And they build a lot of the business model of Temu on top of what they've created in China. Now, one of the things that Temu is currently doing across the world, especially in the US and Europe, is trying to get local brands to sell on the Temu platform. Now, this is something that they've also faced maybe about 5 years ago in China, where a lot of brands didn't want to go and sell on Pinduoduo. But by a strategy that they called the 10 billion subsidy program, they were able to even get Apple to sell iPhones on the Pinduoduo platform. Now, initially, Pinduoduo didn't sell iPhones with the approval of Apple. They got their hands on iPhones in different ways. But eventually, this led Apple to actually join Pinduoduo and sell products on their platform. And Pinduoduo is now selling thousands of different brands on its platform, and it's also broken into the upper tier cities and the more affluent consumers by doing this. And I see the same thing now happening in the rest of the world where Temu is starting to sell iPhones. So my expectation is that this strategy, this 10 billion subsidies program, is also going to be used in the rest of the world to help grow Temu. And this could mean that whether you like it or not, you might be forced to also sell your products on the Temu platform. Now, there's very little knowledge about what Pinduoduo did in China. So it is part of the study tour that I provide with China Tech Trip. And I gave a thorough explanation of the 10 billion subsidies program during the last two tours that I did with K5 from Germany. So to share some of this knowledge, I've created a video that you can see after this introduction that explains the 10 billion subsidies program. If you want to be prepared for the next phase of what Temu might do in the US and in Europe, I strongly advise you to watch this video and get up to speed and get up to date. Okay, I hope you find this valuable. Thank you.
The 10 billion yuan subsidies program. So, we've seen that in the beginning, Pinduoduo mainly focused on the sinking market with low prices. And you can see that in these figures, that in January 2019, only 37% of their GMV came from first and second tier cities, because there are still consumers that like to buy some cheap products. For instance, tissue products were very popular for citizens in first and second tier cities to buy on Pinduoduo. Because if I wipe my ass with a piece of paper, it doesn't have to be a brand. As long as the product is good enough, then why not buy it on Pinduoduo so I can save money and buy an expensive luxury handbag later this year. So this is actually something that happened in China. So this started growing, but what Pinduoduo wanted is they wanted more customers in these first and second tier cities. But they didn't have the right product match for that. The product of getting more customers in those first and second tier cities were that they had a very bad reputation because of this Shanzhai, as they call it in China. They had no branded products because the whole product philosophy was set up around white label, cheap alternatives to branded products. The brands did not trust Pinduoduo because they also saw that a lot of those white label products were actually copies of their own products. And at that time, Alibaba still had that pick one from two policy, that monopoly misbehavior, where they said, okay, you can sell your brand on my platform, but don't sell it on JD or on Pinduoduo or on any of the other platforms, because then I'll kick you off Tmall. So that is not possible anymore, and that's one of the reasons why Alibaba got those high fines. But still, at that time, that was problematic. So what they did at Pinduoduo is something that is extremely smart, I think, and we should be very well aware of, because this is going to happen in Europe soon too. They created what they call a 10 billion subsidies program, and they communicated as such to the consumer. We're going to spend 10 billion renminbi to give you lower prices on branded goods, on authentic big brand products. So what we do is we take the regular brand price, we give you a subsidy for that, and you can get the Pinduoduo price, the subsidized price. They're very open about them, especially in the beginning, financing that subsidy, basically giving you an extra discount. And then very quickly they started selling Apple products, and the market, the consumer, started saying, whenever you need the lowest price for apples, whether it's real apples that you buy from those farmers directly, or if it's a telephone, you need to go to Pinduoduo. It's not cheaper anywhere. But Apple didn't want to sell their products on Pinduoduo. So how did they get those Apple phones? They got them from authorized resellers that had surplus stock. And also a lot that was sold on a electronics market in Shenzhen, very big electronics markets in Shenzhen. So they basically went to resellers, because Apple basically just only sells directly through authorized dealers or through authorized distributors. And those resellers that had surplus stock that they couldn't get rid of because maybe the new model was already coming, Pinduoduo went to them and said, sell them to us, and we'll sell them with a discount and you can get rid of your stock. Something that Apple probably was not very happy with. I don't know if they even allow it, but that's how they got these Apple phones. And thereby, this is the official Apple price. This is the price on other platforms, and this is the price that you paid on Pinduoduo. And in the beginning, especially for these brands, they subsidized the price difference, just as an investment to get more first and second tier consumers on the platform. So the lowest price, what they did is they even gave you an insurance with an insurance company that it's real product, not fakes, to create consumer trust. If you do get a fake product, we'll compensate you 10 times as a consumer. Then you also can return it within 7 days unconditionally, and we'll ship it to you very fast with one of the courier companies here in China. In 2019, they sold 2 million iPhones this way. Remember, this is an enormous country. Just take into account all of the resellers of Apple that are present here. And by now, 30% of all of their sales are branded goods. So there's 100 billion yuan worth of Apple products that they are selling now through Pinduoduo a year. So the first time they did that, it was mainly Apple products and about 1,000 other brands that they also convinced the resellers to sell the surplus stock through their platform. And in 18 June festival, which is basically the shopping festival of JD, when they started doing that, they increased their GMV for that shopping festival by 300% compared to the previous year. In Q3 2019, they added through this program 53 million new users in a quarter where Alibaba added 19 and JD 13. So that's the impact. So what products are they going after? The big name products: Apple, Dyson, Motai, the biggest Baijiu brand. They have certain permanent items that they always want to have 10 billion subsidies available for. They have some seasonal products that appear every now and then, and a lot of fresh produce, which they also sort of discount this way. But don't be fooled, because it's not always Pinduoduo that gives the discount. There are 3 different options. Especially in the beginning, Pinduoduo would subsidize, they would provide the price difference. They saw that as an investment to get those more affluent first, second tier city customers on their platform. So they would subsidize that. Not so much anymore. Another option is that partially the seller would subsidize it. They would just give a lower price, and Pinduoduo might even lower the price a bit further. So it's co-subsidization. Only happens for about 3,000 SKUs currently on the platform. Most of the 10 billion yuan subsidies are now actually, the price difference is being paid by the seller, the selling platform. Sometimes by offering for certain products a slightly less advanced model or a version of the product that doesn't have certain functionalities that the full product has. So it has a lower production cost as well. That also happens. How do they keep the prices low? Like I said, unsold products from other channels, they basically approach these resellers and say, you've got that many product left, you can sell it on Pinduoduo, but we have to talk about the price. The price needs to go down. That even happens on Temu flagship stores and on JD stores. They make the delivery time a bit longer. So they first basically sell it, and then when they know how much they need of that product, then they go to these resellers and say, we've got this volume. Who can give me the lowest price of that slightly older model iPhone? The reseller that gives me the lowest price gets the volume. And that's why they need a slightly longer delivery time. And what they also do is, because they have this sort of bidding system in the back, they don't really show you where you are buying this. Because at the moment you buy this and you create that volume, they don't really know yet which reseller it is coming from. So they sell it as Dodo optimization or the brand zone. And you don't see who will actually deliver that product in the end. Now, I'm not going to read all of these out. Maybe you can quickly read through these and see how successful this program has actually been. But just this one I find really amazing, that by doing this, they grew from 1 trillion to 4 trillion, and they're now about half as big as Alibaba by taking this strategy. And then you get these very ironic situations where H&M is now also opening a flagship store on Pinduoduo, because they want to be one of the brands that also sell there at lower prices. What has this done in practice? Now, we've seen that originally in 2018 they had slightly more than 40% of their customers coming from first and second tier cities, and that has increased to 50% already in 2022. So that roughly 10% extra are all of those people living in the first and second tier cities. Those people that they actually wanted to get on the platform, that weren't willing to buy a lot on Pinduoduo. If you can show as Pinduoduo that there's iPhones, real authentic iPhones available on your platform, then a lot of these first and second tier customers are saying, okay, I thought they were only selling cheap junk. So maybe I should go and have a look, because I can get a better price there than elsewhere in the market.